Hello, everybody. What's up? How are you doing today? Hello, Jen Sankey. Thanks for joining me in the
Ooh,
studio. I'm so excited to
good.
actually be able to sit down and talk with you.
I I know. It's
And
good.
and early in the well, it's like 10:30, but it's early for me, and I've got my coffee, so I need
Yes, and I appreciate that. I have my where I'm at like 1:30 and I'm on cup, you know, this, that. So,
yeah,
it's one of those
cup
days.
400.
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It's a thing. I love your love of coffee, and I love your love of plants, and I love your love of tarot. So I'm a big fan.
Thanks.
And your hair. You have like the best hair. Like always, like it's amazing. And I went through I was dyeing it all kinds of colors, and then
Yeah.
unfortunately bleaching your hair and male pattern baldness isn't they're not friends, so I had to stop
I
doing that. But
understand. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's a whole thing anyway. It's like its own entity at this point, and people will ask. I think people ask me if I dyed my hair with Kool-Aid, and I'm like, damn, I wish it was that easy. That'd be a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah, oh seriously. So do you have a style, like do you have somebody who does it, or do you do the bulk of it?
I do have somebody who does my hair. I can touch it up though. So, then I don't have to go as frequently, but it's
Hmm.
still like, every time I go to wash my hair, it's just a whole thing. So it's just sometimes I get annoyed at how high maintenance I am.
I mean, I feel that too. I feel that too. And I will say you have, I mean, you always look on point. Like you are always like I love your clothes. I'm a gay fanboy for you because you look good. You're always so kind to everybody. You're like you're the person that on social media, like the way you come off is really who you are in person, and that
Yeah.
was really cool because that's not something that a lot of people see. So I will say anybody who is a follower of yours, this is her, like this is the real Jen, and that's really
Yeah.
freaking cool.
That's
So
it.
there's that. Okay, just having a moment. Just having a moment. Yeah, your
Yeah.
hair is the shit. Like I really do love your hair. And when I met you, you had like neon day glow green hair, and
Yeah,
it
I think I
was
was green at
awesome.
that point.
It
Yeah.
was awesome. It was so cool.
I had green. Yeah, I actually did have green for a long time, but then there was somebody who was kind of copying. So every time I got it done, they got it done the exact same way. So and they were doing so I was like, all right. So then we
Yeah.
had to change it because it's just fine and whatever. And of course it's never always the same, but it's just freaking annoying.
Yeah. No, that's totally annoying. I
It's
understand that. Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely understand. I did the mermaid blue. I actually mixed my own blue
Mhm.
emerald beautifulness, and then like
I love
10
it.
people in the next week, like 10 dudes, all did the same. And I was like, you bastards, like I know what you're doing here. It was a thing. Anyway, I
No,
mean, I can't claim that I own that color. However,
same.
I know what's going on. I see you. I see you.
You get it. You get it.
So speaking of all the color, one of the things that I really appreciate about your work is that it is very colorful, and even even the work you made was like the cards are like jumping off the page with or jumping off the cardstock with the color and the vibrancy, and that's
Yeah.
something that I really, really appreciate because usually when we talk about spirituality, usually when we go into the realm of mysticism, you have two schools. You've got the very boring, very dry, beigey kind of vibes, and then you've
Mhm.
got the like exploration of color, but it's usually very I want to say muted in
Right.
comparison to what you're doing and the things that you enjoy. So I want to start everything off with two questions, and I do
Mhm.
this to everybody, so don't feel attacked here. But I'm going to ask you two questions. The first question is, why does color play the importance in your work that it does? And then the other thing that I want to ask, because I suspect that it ties into who you are as a person beyond all of this. And
Mhm.
so my other question is, how did tarot end up working its way into your life so colorfully?
Yeah. Okay. I think, I am actually kind of a psychology nerd. And I always have been. I am a nurse, actually. So there was a lot, obviously, that came into play there. And just color in general just people's reactions to it, good or bad, I think is always, it's so interesting to me. And in relating to tarot, I really think that it helps to kind of spark your intuition and just brings up memories. It's kind of like music. Music really brings up memories. It's kind of like a timestamp sometimes. And I think when, you're reading tarot and you're, really tapping into all of that, that those vibrant colors also kind of spark different parts of your brain. And I just love to see when people, even when I'm reading for other people and they're like, oh, wow, that color. And they tell you a memory about it. Or they're like, wow, this color makes me feel this way. And that's also something too, that when I'm even reading for people, I'll ask them about certain things. Because there's certain colors too that they hate. And they're like, oh, I don't really like that color. Somebody on Kickstarter on my for the Stardust deck, one of the cards, she has kind of like blue eyeshadow on, and she's like, I really don't like the blue. I love this card, but I don't like the blue eyeshadow on her. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but why? What is it about that blue that's making you, really feel uncomfortable? And she did answer. I wasn't sure if she was going to answer or not, because I didn't want her to think I was kind of poking at her, but this is what I do. Why is it bothering you? What is it making you think of? And, she said that it just makes it, she said it makes her feel like it's too, kind of too loud, or it was too much. And I'm like, well, what about it being too much bothers you? And then it just rolls into this whole thing just from this one character having blue eyeshadow on. So that's, really how I love to use color. I'm a very visual person. So I think that's just one of those things. Obviously, just looking at me, you can tell I'm colorful. And I think, as far as tarot goes, even just starting tarot, I started tarot when I was like 14. And, the Rider-Waite-Smith was the first one I had. And, there's a lot of colors in there. And most people hate all the colors in the card. There's the yellows and, and I mean, some of them are definitely a little like something, but again, I just, what is it about them that you don't like, and even for myself, even when I was learning the cards, because I didn't have the internet and Google to look it all up. So I had that little book and that was it, but I had to kind of teach myself. And so that was one of the things that really helped me learn the cards and what they meant to me was the different colors in it. And, as I started to develop my tarot practice and all of that and started really kind of studying what those, in the Rider-Waite-Smith, what those colors really meant, because, they did have meaning in them. So I just thought it was interesting. So I just kind of like wove that into everything I did as far as, anything tarot related.
Absolutely. So how did tarot become a part of your life to the way that it did? Because a lot of us, we'll go out, we'll get a deck and we play around, or we have a friend of
Mhm.
a friend. We all have those kind of origin stories, but not everyone has the thing click that makes them want to go read for other people. In
Right.
fact, I think I would say most people don't have that thing click.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you do it, you kind of step into this role, and you've got a lot of decisions to make about who you are and what you're going to do and what you're willing to do and all that stuff. So
Right. Right.
how did you move from being somebody who was just practicing for yourself and just being a student of the tarot, however you want to pronounce it? My
Yeah.
husband just went on a whole thing about how
Tomato,
to pronounce it.
tomato. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
Um,
definitely.
but like, what made you say, okay, I'm going to do this for people. I'm going to do this professionally. Like, what was that click? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who are in a position where they're like, hey, I need some extra scratch, or hey, I've got this skill and I don't know if I have something here for it. It's a weird place to be at, right? When that
Yeah.
road diverges. So what was your impetus? What was your inspiration to really dive into being a professional reader?
I think it was really, as I was going along, and then, you read for other people a little bit and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually doing okay with this. And I think too, for me, as I was I graduated high school when I was 16. I was early. I was in nursing school right after that. So when you are doing nursing as well, you're doing a lot of teaching and, counseling. And I did all of that, and I think I'm like, wait a minute, I can bring tarot into it and use these as a visual and actually help people in that way. Because I was always one of those people, like I am one of those people. I have like 7 streams going in my head right now. That other people come up to you and just tell random things to. And that's happened to me all my life. Even when I was really young, I would have adults telling me like crazy things. So I think for me, it was just kind of a way to help those people and use something. You have this tool to use to kind of guide and help other people, really. And then, and then I was like, oh, I can actually make some money as I'm doing this, because I left home when I was 14. So I was on my own very long time. And, at that point, anything helped. And, I was just waitressing, but that wasn't enough. So kind of rolled all into that.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me too. I was waiting tables, and I was dating a guy from Biloxi, Mississippi, which is very close to New Orleans. And
Yeah.
he grew up in I grew up in the Midwest in like rural Ohio, right? And he grew up in a very different world than I did, and had been exposed to not just tarot, but like psychics and like really famous practitioners and things in
Right.
his, throughout his life. And I had no idea because we never really talked about it. But one day, he overheard a reading I was giving to a friend on the phone or something along those lines. And then that evening I was complaining about not being able to make my car payment. And I was like, just stressed out about it. And he's like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, wait. So you can do this thing, but you're not using it to pay your bills. And I was like, no, because it's a spiritual thing and da da da.
Right.
And
Right.
it's a God's given talent and it's here to help people. And he just kind of looked at me, and this is burned into my brain. I will never forget this. He just looked at me and he said, well, if Britney Spears can get paid millions of dollars for her talent, I don't know why you can't get enough. I don't know why you can't get paid enough to make your bills. And I was
Right.
like, whoa, ah.
Oh.
And that was it. Like, that was
Yeah.
really the thing. And so, and I had done readings. I'd helped out some friends and things who had a shop, but I never had taken that confident step forward. And that's such a hard thing for readers to do and for
Yeah.
people to do in general. You've been working with tarot, you've been teaching tarot, you've been helping people find their way with tarot. What makes tarot something that is valuable for those of us who we don't necessarily belong to a spiritual tradition? We are renegades and nomads, and the tarot is a tool to help us make sense of the world, right?
Mhm.
So for you, what do you find are the aspects of tarot that are the most beneficial, that are the most versatile?
I think it comes down to when you're even just when you're giving a reading to somebody else and what they're seeing in the card that you may not see. So I feel like it just leaves it open. For you, you as a reader, you're guiding people and you're helping them, come to some sort of conclusion or whatever. If that's the type of reader you are. I mean, there's definitely different types of readers. And I'm more of like the counseling, let's figure this out kind of thing. So for me, I just love being able to let them also help themselves. And it isn't all about, well, this is what I see and that's it. And that's what you got to do. And that's it. It's more of like, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing, but what are you seeing? How are you feeling? What does this make you feel? How do, if we go this way, are you like, where are you even feeling that in your body? So I just like to make it like the whole all encompassing part of it, I think is really the part that I like the most. And I feel like just helping other people kind of tap into that is really important.
Yeah. I know I go from I definitely started off as being somebody who was more about giving a message, and I didn't really, it was more about what was coming through to me and trying to deliver that to the
Mhm.
client. But then at some point it clicked in my head that it didn't matter what I was going to say. If I didn't deliver it in a way that it was going to actually make sense to that person, then the whole experience was kind of pointless, right?
Right.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I got my cash for the whatever, and that's great, but that person's going to walk away not changed in the way that they probably should be, or not changed in the way
Mhm.
that they were hoping to be changed. And that's a really
Yeah.
difficult, like, position to be in. So when you're giving a reading to somebody and you run into an instance or a situation where the information is like, you've got a message, but you're not sure if this person's going to handle it, or you're not sure how to even approach this with this person, like,
Right.
where's your starting point with that?
I think really when I'm just starting to talk to them, I can kind of, you're tapping into their energy and you can get a feel for it. And a lot of times, I feel like they want, those messages. They're hoping to get them, but they don't really want to ask for them either. Um, so for me, it all winds up leading that way. And I feel like if I have somebody or a message that somebody is trying to get through, the cards kind of also lead us there. And that kind of opens the discussion to, okay, well, if I am if I am getting a message from someone, is that something you'd like me to share? And I will ask that usually. Some people really don't want that and they don't want any of that, but I can usually kind of weave it into what we're talking about. We even without them knowing, because then whoever that, whoever, whatever spirit or whoever, they can be very persistent. So sometimes you're like, okay, well, you heard them. They don't want to hear from you, Uncle Joe, but here, we're going to just slide in this message anyway, and they're going to get it regardless.
Yeah.
Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of times that happens anyway. And I don't want this person bugging me after I leave.
Yeah.
So, it's like just trying to see what they're open to. And then if not, I just try to like kind of
Yeah.
right in there.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I definitely try to, well, now when people book with me, which granted I don't do the amount of readings as I used to, because it's draining.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
No,
And
it's a lot. I really
oof,
don't either. I just actually I don't even have it really open as much as I used to.
yeah. Um, I have it like very, very much explained when they go to book that, like, okay, well, I'm
Mhm.
actually a medium. Like, that's my real shtick here in life.
Yep.
And the tarot is very helpful and useful. And I've found ways of using tarot to kind of hack that experience so that I can be really
Mhm.
clear and precise. And but I'm the, okay, let's take care of this problem. So if something comes up, I don't like just leaving people with fate and fortune and then walking away, because that's like the
Right.
scariest thing
No,
sometimes.
and to me, that just then you just more questions at that point, and then they walk away confused. So I'm like, I
Hmm.
don't know. And they're coming to you for a specific problem. I'd rather like try to figure it out or give them some
Hmm.
ideas, because sometimes it's something they never even thought of. And I'd rather do that and have them walk away even with just something, even if we don't solve it, just something
Hmm.
else to think on, a different perspective of it,
Absolutely.
instead of just
Absolutely.
like, here it is, bye, but some people don't want to be, guided. They just want to say,
Yeah.
is this happening or is this happening? All right, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather not do that, but if that's what they want, that's what they want. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
about me.
And
It's not about
right.
me.
No, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's times where I want, like, for as much access as I have to people who are in the psychic world, I don't talk to a lot of psychics. Like, I've learned to just kind of avoid that. And there are times when I need something and I'll reach out. Like, I have a person who's been reading me for me since oh gosh, 15 years, maybe 16 years. Oh, but and I love her, and her and
Mhm.
I would be like best friends, but because she's my psychic, I'm like, no, no, like, we only talk when I need something or when there's something going on in a
Right.
mutual like world. But other than that, like, no, no. And it's because she's my trusted psychic and I need her to not be too close, in this situation.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's so hard to be somebody who has access to readings and other readers and things like that. And uh, honestly, where I'm going with this specifically is that like you got to build up your own confidence, and it's hard sometimes when other people are injecting or interjecting their opinions and their viewpoints on things. And I remember I was in New Orleans doing a gig once, and I was shuffling
Mhm.
the tarot cards. The gig was to just walk around and do like 1 card readings for this
Okay.
big group of people. And they paid a lot of money. Everyone was dressed up very fancy. And I was like, okay. So I bought a couple decks and I brought them out and I start doing, readings, and I shuffle the cards. And the way that I shuffle is the way that my grandmother, who was a blackjack dealer in Vegas, shuffles. So I'm very like, like in
Yeah,
fast and
yeah.
get through it. And it disturbed the other tarot readers. Like I actually had somebody come up and go, "That's not how you do that."
Oh
And
my
I,
god.
excuse me,
What?
excuse me. What do you mean that's not
Yeah,
how I
like,
do that? That's exactly how
what?
I do it. I don't care how you do it,
Are you
lady.
serious? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
horrible.
gosh. See, I have small hands, so I try doing that. It depends on the size of the cards, because if I try to riffle, it'll just be like all over the
Mm.
place, done. So I just shuffle, however, and I've had people mention like, oh well, you kind of shuffle kind of sloppy, and I'm like, I don't remember asking you. But I've also had people tell me it annoys me when I talk with my hands, and I can't help that. It just
Yeah,
happens.
whatever. Yeah. I used to just throw them on the table and then mush them all up.
Oh my, yeah,
And then because I'm a big like you choose your cards person, like I don't like to
right.
choose your cards for you. So I like no, I want you to intuitively figure out what your message is, and I will be your interpreter for that. Like I'm very into
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
so I used to just do that. And then I realized like it was very time consuming in a reading to just go through this entire
Yeah, because
process
when
and
you
have them
have to
read.
like scoop them back up, right,
Yeah,
right.
and then they start falling out, and it's just like it's embarrassing. It's a whole thing. Okay, so let me
No,
ask you this: so, what makes a good reading for you? Like in your mind, like at the end of a reading, you as the reader, but also you as somebody who is getting a reading, like what is it that sets that standard for this was a good reading? This is something that I can walk away with X or for whatever reason, or what makes a bad reading? Like when is it like, oh, that was not what I was looking for? Like what are those
Right,
two lines for you?
two things. Yeah. So as a reader, I think I'm usually really happy with a reading when the person's really comfortable. Getting a reading can be really, especially if it's their first time, they can just be really nervous about it. But after talking for a few minutes and then they relax, that I think is really, then I know we're like in it. Like it's going to be a good reading. We're going to be able, and they're open, um, and they're sharing, because even though, like, I don't even like to label myself as a medium or anything, because I feel like just, like society, like the names they put, like makes you look like a certain kind of thing that you're not. It's just what I do. But so, once they realize that I'm not going to be like, like Whoopi Goldberg on Ghost or anything like that, then it's like,
Baby, what you
okay.
do to your hair? Yeah, that's the best scene in that movie. Sorry, I just had to come back on just for that. All right.
So, but it's like, yeah, I love that you just did that. So I think, and then they relax and then they start sharing with you. And then I'm like, well, the more you share with me, the deeper we can go. And it's not a guessing game. And that kind of for me too rolls into what.
Did we lose Jen? Jen's frozen in a really awkward position. Let's see if we get Jen back. I should take a screen cap because I'm sure she would love the face that she's making right now. We'll see how this goes. Internet's weird. It is Mercury retrograde and much other things are retrograde. Thank you, everybody who is tuning in. I am sure we'll get Jen back in just a second. In the meantime, you should definitely be checking out everything that Jen does. And if you don't know who Jen is, Jen's kind of amazing. Jen Sankey is somebody who I'm very proud to know, and I got to meet.
There we go.
There we
It
go.
just
Are you back? Haha. I was just starting to go through how awesome you are and to tell people to hang around. Anyway, so good reading. So not
Yes,
being Whoopi Goldberg in a reading.
right.
Yes.
Bad
That was
reading. Yeah. And bad reading was like, people just, they approach it and it's more like they're just testing you. I
mhm.
can't stand when they're such a waste of time. like,
That's the most annoying thing in the
it's
world.
like you only have so much time and you're wasting 20 minutes on convincing them, and which I don't even try to convince them anymore. I just go about my thing and whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and then the last couple minutes, then they're like, oh, okay, they're pretty legit. And then they try to start like throwing everything at you in the last 5 minutes. And you're just like, okay, no, sorry. You're going to either have to book again or this is it. So
Yeah.
that always gets me.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel bad. I had a client who was like a referral kind of thing, and I hadn't been taking new clients, but I was like, okay. And she spent it was a very sad situation. Her brother had passed away, and she was trying to get some closure on that. And
Mm-hmm.
but she booked an hour, and I've got all kinds of things going on in my day. And so we spent probably the first 40 minutes just talking about what I do. And then we had 20 minutes left to get into the actual session. And I tried to plow through, and I was like, I felt bad. And I said, hey,
Yeah.
I can't extend this, but if you want to come back in like 90 days, because it was still fresh too. That was the other thing. I was like, you don't want to talk to dead people right after it happens.
Yeah.
But I was like, come back in 90 days and I'll do another session for you for free. Like just because I feel bad that this didn't work out the way that you had thought it was going to work out. Whatever.
Right.
And oh, the hate that I got after that. And even just I posted about it on social media, and people were like, that's so mean of you. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Like
No, it is.
it's a weird
It is.
situation
And
to be
it's
in.
just,
Yeah.
if you're not, and when we book it, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I try to get right to it. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, then let's have like an email conversation. If you want to know what I do. And there's plenty of social media that if you're really curious, then go do your own little search, just Google, done. But wasting all that time. And I've had that too, where they just like, well, they start just asking you questions, and it's like they're interviewing you, and you're like, okay, but what about what are we doing? And then the last minute they're trying to get it in, and they're not going to be happy regardless, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like, all right, well, I tried. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you this: Stardust Wanderer Tarot. So it is, again, we talk about beautiful, vibrant, lots of colors. There's so much energy in it. So what made you want to do your own tarot deck? Like, I love tarot, I love reading tarot, I love helping people with tarot, but like the jumping into, I want to make a tarot deck, which I'm going through right now. So I'm extra curious about why, like what made you want to do this? And you did it in a way that allowed you also, I think, to have a lot more control probably over the creative process than what a lot of tarot creators get a chance to have. So I'm extra curious about your process with that. And I'm extra curious as to like, why the Stardust Wanderer Tarot? Like, what was that about? I mean, obviously I get it because I know your bio, but for those of us at home, what's up with the Stardust Wanderer Tarot stuff?
So it was kind of a weird thing. I, obviously have been, reading for a really long time, and I was just kind of looking at decks, and I'm realizing, these people are creating these decks and all of that. And I'm like, what, it would be kind of cool to do my own, like just to my interpretation and kind of whatever I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden I got a download of the Fool card. And in my deck, her name is Mina, and she's a space pirate demigoddess. And after that, like, I'm just like, oh, wow, that would be cool to kind of do a deck on this world. And it just kind of really just went from there, and it evolved into all of these things. And I'm like, all right, well, how do I even go about finding an artist? Am I going to pitch this to a publisher? Am I going to do it myself? And I think, I don't know, I'm crazy. I'm like, oh, I'm going to just do this myself. And it took quite a while to find an artist. So I finally did find an artist that was really in the style that I was looking for. So it really takes the artist part, like when you're doing a deck by yourself, is probably one of the hardest things. Number one, because you're paying them out of pocket, which, is a thing. And also just finding there's a lot of people who do wonderful art, but they can't do more than maybe two people in a deck, or they can't do a lot of imagery in a they have like, one person they might just do beautiful scenery, but when they have to put people in it, they don't really do people, so you have to find somebody that can do all of these different things, because some of the cards, there's a lot of stuff going on, you know. Even if, like the Wheel of Fortune, there's so many elements in that card. And for me, like I had a very specific devil card that I wanted. And you know, and there was a lot even going on in that. So it's just really trying to find that, and somebody who is going to commit to it. You know, that deck took 4 years to make. And that, you know, my artist did go, you know, she did go slow. It was a kind of a slow process. So it's just having the patience to do that. And then you have to, you know, the kickstarting part of it all. And now I am, you know, I'm publishing a deck with Llewellyn, and then I did my self-published deck. So I kind of did both sides. So it's been really interesting to, you know, see the differences in it. And you're seeing, you know, the yes, the create, you know, you do have control over your creativity when you're self-publishing, but there's also a nice part of having it through the traditional publisher as well. So it's definitely kind of, there's the pluses and minuses of both of them. My traditional deck, I mean, we're done. It was a year. So for me, I'm like, whoa, like, wait a minute, you know, and that was really crazy. Like that was like, we honestly, my Stardust deck went to print the same day I got the last image for my Enchanted Forest Felines deck. So it all happened literally everything in the same week, and I actually got my first draft book edits in that same week too. So it was like, and that was all like beginning off, like that was a lot. It's also a little bit more nerve-wracking too when you have your own self-published deck, because you know everybody has their opinions, obviously we know that. And you know, even like the woman that I was talking about with the blue eyeshadow on the one card, you know, it's like all these little things and they're nitpicking all these little things, and you're like, oh, maybe I should have put that in, or maybe I should have changed that. And my deck has a lot of naked in it, and I didn't realize that. And it's very interesting to see like these images on the cards, and you're like, wow, my brain is quite the interesting place. And then you're putting it on display. So like for me, it's like I'm literally just put all these crazy things in my head onto cards on display. So it's definitely a little nerve-wracking in that sense.
I would imagine. I would absolutely imagine. And okay, so you're the Enchanted Forest Feline
Yeah,
is the one that. So
working
did they
title.
contract you for that to like write that out? Did they
I
come to you, or
actually
did
had
you
the
go to them
idea.
with that? Okay, okay.
What?
That's what I was wondering is how did that start? How was that
Yeah,
like?
that's
Because I
with
know.
Llewellyn. I proposed it. I had an idea and proposed it. And actually that idea, because I live on top of a mountain and in the middle of the woods, and we have a lot of stray cats. And I just kind of came up with the idea of it. And that's how that happened. So they found the artist, you know, they find the artist, and what you can kind of give an idea of what you want, and then they find the artist, a couple different ones, and you pick. And the one I chose, she is very, very sweet. She's from Croatia. Her name is Iva. So this is her first big project. And she's just absolutely adorable. And it's very more like folk art. So it's so completely different than Stardust.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I think Stardust is a little too weird for Llewellyn. I don't think that they would probably vibe with that.
I don't know.
Um,
I don't know.
I don't
They've
know.
put out some stuff. They've put out
Yeah,
some stuff.
I mean, if it was like Low Scarabeo, then 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Because,
without question. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, so then that's, you know, that's all in process and everything. And I really, you know, I had a good time doing the Stardust deck. I mean, just it's really just cool to like come up with all these images. And for me, like, I mean, I had pages and pages of descriptions on each card, which I don't know that everybody does, but I like down to the clothes that they were wearing, the colors, obviously, colors a thing. And you know, just even what they were holding, what everything looked like, I was so specific on what I wanted. So, you know, it was
That's cool.
really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's hecka cool.
Yeah.
Are you planning on any more? Are there any other things brewing up in that cauldron of yours?
You know how it is. There's
I
always
do.
something brewing. You know,
Always.
if you just
Always.
hacked into my notes app on my phone because you wake up at 3 in the morning and you're like,
Yeah.
so yeah, so right now, you know, the Stardust is at the printers. That's there. I'm waiting for the first draft edits back on the book for the Enchanted Forest Felines. In the first draft edits for my book. And I already have another idea for actually 2 other books that I want to do. But since I'm baby Llewellyn, I have to wait until everything, you know, until they look at anything else. So, you know,
Mhm.
I have to do the process. But yeah, there's definitely ideas.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. Well, good. I love hearing that because I hope that you are staying busy and creative for many, 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 many moons to come because I really love your work and I love the stuff that
Thank
I know
you.
like anytime you come up or something that you're working on comes up in the house, like Matt's like, oh, Jen Sankey, and then Storm's like, oh, Jen Sankey. So like you are beloved in the house for sure.
Yes. No,
Um,
I love you guys. Like I always call you the boys. You guys are the boys. So
that's the name everyone, which is fine. I mean, I'm cool
right.
with it. I think everyone else is cool with it, but the boys, we're just the boys now. And I'm okay with
Yeah,
that. But
it's funny.
yeah,
Well, it's funny I think too because I have 4 boys, children, and they were always called the boys. So like for me, like now like you guys are the boys. So
yeah.
it's like a funny thing, but no, I adore all of you.
Well, it's definitely a mutual feeling.
Mhm.
And definitely she's gonna come back. So we're gonna have Jen back in a couple of weeks when we do the big tarot crazy thing that I've got planned for November. So you will be
Woohoo.
seeing Jen again. But in the meantime, Jen, you are literally like all over the internet and all over social media, and you are one of my favorite people to follow on social media.
Yay, thank
Like
you.
the 10 minutes I'm on Instagram a week, like are pretty much me looking at your videos and stuff. So like so if we were going to send people to find you so that they can also participate in all the Genseki goodness, where would you send them?
You know, it's really if you just Google Jen Sankey or Stardust Wanderer Tarot, it'll bring you to all the things. That's really the
It's
easiest
true.
thing to do,
It's true. You did
honestly.
a really good job at
Like,
making sure that was all one thing. Yeah. You did a very good
yeah,
job with that.
that's the thing
Absolutely.
to do for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking the
Yeah,
time
thank
and hanging out
you.
with us. And I'm looking forward to more convos and to
Yes,
sharing more of the cards when they're here and they're out because that's going to be
yeah,
freaking cool. I love all things sci-fi and everybody knows this. And so I was particularly like giggle some when I found out what the Stardust Wanderer was about. I was like, oh
yes.
yes,
No, because
yes,
I am. It's one of my other, geek things I do. I love like anything sci-fi. So
yeah.
it needed to happen.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. And
Yeah.
I'm glad it did. I'm totally glad it did. And I have a collection of sci-fi oriented tarot cards that I've held on and I have not
Yeah.
opened them because I'm like, nope, I have to have Jen with me when I do this. So
Yes,
so you will be
absolutely.
back for sure.
Yes,
And again,
next
thank you
time.
for all of the love that you give up me and a bunch of other creators. It's another one of the things that I think is great about you is that you're very supportive of everybody who's in a creative field right now and part of the community
Yeah.
and part of the scene. And so she's a fantastic person to
Thank
follow,
you.
everybody. So make sure you're following Jen. But in the meantime, definitely come back next week and
Yep.
we will see you on the flip side.
Yay. All right. Bye. Thank you.